Welcome boys and girls from YouTube, my name is Sloth, this is the Sloth Forge, and thanks a lot for stopping by. In today's video, I want to talk about the Burn School, just giving you a general overview about the school, talking about some different heroes, and how to build those heroes, also about the Burn debuff, how exactly does this debuff work, and then about gear, artifacts, and talents, and finally about how to build a strong Burn team. So let's get into this. First, the Burn debuff. What exactly is this? It is a debuff that can stack up to 9 times, and then it causes a blast if it stacks beyond 9 times. So if you have 10 stacks of burn, you will cause a blast. This blast deals AoE damage and scales with attack, so you want to build your burn heroes with a lot of attack, but also with crit rate and crit damage, but we will talk about this later. Now, one thing to be aware of, whenever one of those burn debuffs is removed, it is only one of those burn debuffs is removed. Even if you try to cleanse all of your debuffs, you still only remove one of those burn debuffs. So it is very hard to remove those debuffs. However, the block debuffs buff is extremely scary. So now how do we inflict burn exactly? Because we cannot just inflict burn. To inflict burn, we have to inflict ignite. And once the ignite reaches 100%, then the ignite will convert into a burn debuff. And this is pretty much the whole magic. And the more burn debuffs are active on the enemy, the more effective the ignite is going to be. So the more burn debuffs are active, the easier it gets to inflict further burn debuffs, just as a quick heads up. Now, to inflict ignite, you need accuracy. So this is something else that you also have to be aware of. And this is the biggest downside of the burn school. You need a lot of stats. For your main DPS heroes, you not only want attack percentage on your chest, you also want crit damage or crit rate on your gloves. So already a lot of stats, but you also need accuracy. So a burn hero is even harder to build than a poison hero. This is the biggest downside, as I said, but the struggle is absolutely worth it. Burn heroes are extremely strong, and especially for AoE areas, burn performs extremely good. For example, in Season 2, at the Continental Challenge, Burn is one of the best performing teams. If you are interested in this team, have a look in the description below. There I will put a link for one of those teams and how to build this team. But now, back to topic. Let's talk about the Burn heroes. And one thing to just repeat one more time, you really want to build all your Burn heroes with accuracy. This is extremely important, and even your strongest DPS heroes, you want to build them with accuracy. But now, what are the strongest DPS heroes? Ascadius and Durham. Without a doubt, those two heroes are by far the strongest damage dealers from the Burn school. While sometimes it's actually Durham that outperforms Ascadius, just as a quick heads up. But in general, Ascadius is also an extremely strong Burn hero. But what if you don't have those two heroes? There are also some very strong epic alternatives, namely Ernin. I don't know how to pronounce her, I'm very sorry, but she's also a very, very strong damage dealer, not close to one of those two heroes, but a very strong alternative. For especially considering that she's an epic hero, she's absolutely decent. If you don't have her as well, Zrax and Lyle are also fine. They are not as strong as her, but they are absolutely fine. While Zrax gets some additional plus points because he can summon a very cool turret, or actually he can have up to 2 of those turrets, which is just very cool in my opinion. Back to topic. Now you also want to bring a hero that is very good at inflicting first multiple burn debuffs or ignite debuffs, but also good at inflicting the defense penalty with which remains. And the by far best hero for this, at least most of the times, is Carve, because there is a multiple hit on his ultimate, and not only multiple hit, but also does he gain accuracy up, so it is way easier for him to inflict all those debuffs, and then it is a full AoE multiple hit, so he's extremely reliable with inflicting the defense penalty and a very, very good hero. He's not designed to be a very good damage dealer, he's definitely outperformed by those two heroes, but he is still very, very important for all burn teams. If you don't have Carve, there's also a very good alternative with Beaks, for example, because he also has a multiple hit on his ultimate, and absolutely good for this job as well. Also, just to name or to talk about this real quick as well, Percival. This is also a very cool burn hero who brings a very cool ultimate because he grants attack up to all your burn allies and is definitely worth trying as well. especially if you have a small roster and missing a lot of those burn heroes, then you can absolutely try Percival. Now, how do you build a burn team? It's once again actually not too complicated. You want to bring your strongest damage dealer, while Asclepius and Durham are the strongest ones. Apart from that, I already talked about the hierarchy of damage dealers, and then you just want to pair those with one or two heroes, depending on how many damage dealers you have right now, that are just there to inflict multiple burns. For example, Carve, or just one of those two heroes here are absolutely fine as well. So you just want to inflict as many burns. It's not too complicated. And then just keep the team alive, and definitely, as I said, if you have a small roster, Percival is definitely worth a try. And yeah, either Carve or Beaks for the Witch Remains, and then you're fine to go. Now, let's talk about gear real quick, because there are two very important, or two sets that perform extremely well for burn. First, it is the Skyfire Sunset, because this will just increase your burn, not your burn damage, but your blast damage by 35%. So you should definitely try to use a Skyfire Sunset, because those perform so good. Also, another very strong set is the Stonebreaker Silent set, Stonebreaker set. Because every single time that you successfully inflict a debuff, you permanently increase your hero's attack by 1.5% with up to 20 stacks, so up to 30% increased attack, and all those ignite debuffs count as debuffs, so you get those 20 stacks pretty fast. So the Stonebreaker set is another extremely strong set for your burn heroes. Now, just real quick about the artifacts, this is actually not too complicated, because there right now is only one artifact that really benefits for burn heroes, and it is the Oil of Skyfire artifact. But this artifact is extremely powerful, and is absolutely worth it. If you have Durham or Asclepius, you definitely want to go for the Oil of Skyfire's artifact, because this was just so strong and it will skyrocket your damage. So absolutely worth it, one of the strongest artifacts. It can increase your damage by up to 40%, which is very rare, while most artifacts will increase your damage something between 25 and 30%. So this is honestly an extremely strong artifact. Apart from that, other artifacts that will also increase your damage are just, for example, the Darkthorn Claw or the Whisper of the Consumer, just generic artifacts that give you some additional stats or increase your damage in any ways. And for the legendary category, also a very strong artifact actually is the Eyeball of the Giant. You can also try the Manticore statue, but it's especially the Eyeball of the Giant on Durham or Asclepius is also a very strong alternative. But later on, if possible, you definitely want to go for the Oil of Skyfire. And last, let's talk about the talents real quick, because there are some different talents that are very useful. First, especially early on, this is very useful. There are those two talents that will help you to inflict burn debuffs, because they will either help you to ignore the target's resistance or will increase your accuracy when inflicting burn. Especially this one, the Direct Ray, is extremely strong, because ignoring up to 30% resistance at the endgame content, the boss has 330 resistance. This is roughly around 100 resistance that you ignore, and is extremely helpful. So especially if you early on or in general struggle to reach enough accuracy, this is very much worth it. However, if somehow possible, you want to use some talents that will increase your damage, because they have also very big impact on your damage output. Especially the Unbearable Heat is very strong, because the enemy is most of the time inflicted with burn, so this will just flat increase your damage by 10% for pretty much the whole fight. Also, the Unstoppable Force is a very interesting talent, but for level 5, actually I think all of those talents are interesting, so once again, the advice as always, when it comes to talents, you have to try around a little bit and also adjust for the content that you are currently in. And for the level 6 talent, I would definitely recommend to go with the Wildfire Spread for your damage dealer, or the Cinders. Here once again, it actually depends on your current team comp, so I would try around. But for your damage dealers, those two talents are by far the best. But you also want to bring one hero with the Blazing Fire talent, because this will just help your whole team to deal more damage, because yeah, you will inflict a lot of burns and you will have 100% uptime, so 10% damage up for your whole team. Definitely take this. And that's it. This is the whole burn guide. I really hope that I've mentioned everything, and if you have any further questions or you want to add something, please let me know in the comments below. That's it for today, and see you in the next one.